Yo, what's up, everybody? I am apologies running behind, so we're gonna get this thing started. Let me see where we at. Let me get everything. Hope everyone's having a great Memorial Day weekend. Hope everyone's having a great day. All right. Let's get this thing going. All right, press and play. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As always, I'm gonna let the trailers and previously on played and whatnot. Right now, they're showing the It series, which I can't wait for. Oh, it's been a day. It has been a day, y'all. Hope y'all are doing well. Appreciate y'all joining in. You know the drill if you've been here before, but if you're new, appreciate you. Hit the like. Man, I'm really excited for the series. Like, share, throw your. I think there's a new. I don't know if you can see it on my end. It shows, but there's like a beta. You can see the comments on the screen, so that's pretty cool. Leave a comment. Consider subscribing, and let's send some good energy. Tonight's episode is gonna be great. Hopefully. Let's see, we got in the chat while they're showing us trailer. Only what's going on? It's only 50. It's only 50 minutes. Oh boy. I mean, if you work with your time, you can work with I was hoping for a little bit longer. I feel like we need 2 more episodes. Yeah, the 7-episode season is baffling. Baffling. Hey y'all, it's finale day. Yes. What's up? Man, I can't wait for this It series. There is the dancing clown. And by the way, like I said, I know I'm behind, so if you guys started the episode before me, try to avoid spoilers. I would appreciate it. But right now, the timer on the clock is where I am. And the episode's about to start now. We're doing a recap, cliffhanger. And, oh yeah, definitely a cliffhanger. I'm right there with you, Justin. You hear about season? I did hear about season 3, and I called it a couple weeks ago. It's gonna be like Abby, the Abby story, which is gonna be a conversation for tonight's after show. But yeah, and apparently they're stretching part 2 out to a 4th season too. Yeah, well, we'll see. Hopefully, because I would imagine I'm going to be off for at least 1.5 years to 2 years. I hope tonight's finale ends in a positive light, an exciting light. Speaking of Abby, I hope she pops up tonight. She's been absent since episode 2? Predictions. I do think we'll see Abby, hopefully. Based on the trailer, and I don't know if you guys saw some of the leaks that was online, but looks like we might be in for a doozy tonight. Which, by the way, I don't know. 2025, HBO. I don't know how stuff still gets leaked in today's, servers, and how they put stuff on the cloud and all that stuff is crazy. Especially with their history with leaks with Game of Thrones and stuff. It's wild. Hope you guys were able to avoid spoilers or leaks that made its way online. All right, let's go, y'all. Put my eyes on if I can freaking see. Is she gonna tell him she's pregnant and got a girlfriend? This is their first scene together, isn't it? Of like scene of dialogue. That's kind of wild. No, she's got a baby, bro. Yo, baby. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if she tells him now. I mean, she has terrible timing on when she told Ellie when she was pregnant. It's just like I wouldn't be surprised if she's like, "I'm pregnant with your baby." Are they not going to show us how she was able to escape the hospital after being chased down and shot at, and what happened to Nora? They're going to show us that, right? I'm not dripping, am I? Who the hell is Tommy? Can you move the comments? She kill her? Are we not gonna see it? Okay, here we go. She said she was already dead. She was infected. Oh, she gonna tell her what happened. I mean, that does change things for Dina's perspective. Like, thought this was a, different mission, but now her saying that she get what she deserved, and it's just like, well, same could be said about Joel. I'm still shocked that they're just now having that conversation, but I guess it's only been what, when they was it day one? I guess it's only been 2 days, I guess. But I would have thought she would have told her that the day that she found out she was cured or immune. In this scenario, I'm all team Jesse right now because it's like they would not be in this position if it wasn't because of Ellie. Awkward. Yo, what's up, Skylar? Season finale already. 2 episodes, 14 years. Shaking my head. Agree, and the fact that Jesse doesn't know about the baby, yeah, that's wild. That's disrespectful. Seriously though, he's the father of the child, and don't even tell him. Two and two together. Oh boy. Oh shoot. Hmm. I've seen my fair share of TVs, movies, and all that stuff. And when people say they can't die, they won't die, that normally puts a target on their back for a death wish. And I've been saying for weeks, I figured that Jesse or Tommy or both of them was going to arrive at some point, but I'm like, at what expense? We'll see. We'll see. But I think that with this being the finale, you have to end in a way that's like leaves the audience a little bit with a shock value, and I can definitely see it not ending well for Jesse. What is wrong with her? Does she not know that that's a Seraphite and they literally gut people alive? What is she doing? This is that dumb shit I'm talking about, dude. The way they write Ellie is so stupid. That was so stupid. What? That's that frustrating stuff I've been talking about this season, man. It's like that. Luckily, obviously, that didn't happen, so I'm not going to dwell on it too often. But it's just like they've created this narrative that Ellie's just like do things out of logically thinking. So special about Abby. Yeah, what's the deal? What? Abby? Where is this coming from? Am I missing something? Is there like a complete subplot of the importance of Abby besides the narrative connection in Joel that she's the leader, the supposed to be the next leader of the wolves? I'm confused on the Abby angle because wasn't the whole thing that she was like looking for Joel for 5 years and almost like abandoned her post with the wolves? So now she's all of a sudden the replacement of Isaac. I guess like we said earlier, season three is going to be an Abby story, so maybe season three will fill in the gaps to show us the importance of her as the next leader. So let me get this straight. You're willing to throw your hands up for the chance of Tommy, saving Tommy? Same person that came and risked his life for yours. You're just like, oh, he'll figure it out. And I would be okay with her being so like bloodthirsty for Abby if this was her initial plan from the jump street. I mean, obviously they were going to Seattle for that, but episodes 4 and 5 kind of seemed like she forgot about that whole purpose of why they were there. But now it's all of a sudden, Abby, I gotta get her. I gotta kill her. I'm gonna kill Nora. It's just like this is doesn't feel earned. And if we've seen one thing about this version of Ellie, she is not prepared for any of this. I'm not gonna lie, this backdrop looked pretty cool with the rain and the water and all that. Looks pretty dope. Looks scary. Is that a wave? Oh my goodness. Who the hell is that? A little boy from Pet Cemetery. Was that a Seraphite? Oh my gosh, this girl. What's wrong with her legs? Why is she crawling like a baby? Children of the Corn. That's what I was thinking of, the little kid from Pet Cemetery. Isn't he in the first? Is he in one of the Children of the Corn? How's she gonna get out of this one? Tell them. How would he know? Mm. Listen, I'm sure whatever just happened may have happened in the game, but that's bad writing. That's just terrible writing to pull out armor on your main character just for the sake of why even put her in that position if you're just gonna make her get out of it in 2 seconds. This is stupid. I'm sorry. This is stupid. Wh- What was the point of her being there? I don't even know what's happening anymore, dude. I don't even know what that. What was the point of that scene? Was it just to make Ellie more incapable of handling herself? It's like she hadn't. She. I don't. That was so stupid. The character assassination they're doing to Ellie right now is just this season has just been a crime of storytelling. This is not even like a good episode of television. Forget like finales. I know we got 13 minutes left, 12 minutes left. The narrative structure is just non-existent. Emmanuel says, "Was it to show that she's in her head? Who, in whose head, Emmanuel? Abby? If you were, I don't know if you were. Maybe I missed something. Cancel season 3. What? This girl's pregnant? Everyone's pregnant on the show? Oh my goodness. Holy shit. He's killed a pregnant woman. That's crazy. That's actually crazy. I think we supposed to hate Ellie. I think this is show's building for us to hate her from her terrible decision making. How the hell did he? How in the world did he find her? Well, I guess Jesse told him, but wow. Isn't there a war going on right now? They're just hopping around town. They got an Uber. At this point, you got to put handcuffs on Ellie because she's just a loose cannon. She's caused so much trouble. It's ridiculous. Clearly not. After killing a pregnant woman. What is going on now? Did he just get shot in the foot? Oh my gosh. Does everyone have a GPS in this show that they can just find people? How did she find them? And is Jesse dead? I'm at a loss for words right now. I am at a loss for words. I am gonna take my dog out. I'm gonna walk back to Seattle and come back because that's clearly a 2-minute, based on this show. You can hop around like teleporting. I'm gonna take my dog out, think about some thoughts, and try to figure out a way to discuss tonight's episode and the season as a whole and what to expect next. Season finale of The Last of Us. Alrighty, y'all. I will see you in about 10 minutes, and we'll try to figure this out together. Oh, boy. I will see you guys in a little bit. Where is the thing? All right, I'll see you guys in a bit.
See?
Arteries are.
Oh, you're not a doctor.
Dina, shut up!
Alrighty, we are back. We are back. We are back. How are we doing, y'all? How are we doing? Happy Memorial Day weekend for you all out there. Hope you guys are having a good, safe weekend. Happy Sunday. Shout out to you all that joined me for the watch party and have been, a part of this journey for the last 7 weeks. I really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna need y'all to help me through the night. I'm gonna need y'all to help carry me through this this breakdown and discussion, because I always try to, we'll do what we do all the last 7 weeks. I'll do a intro and outro for a separate clip out of this discussion for tomorrow morning. But before we do that, just want to talk to y'all, man. Always try to find, even if I'm not a big fan of a certain story, movie, TV show, episode, whatever the case may be, always try to find the positives to kind of, put myself in a position of like, okay, this didn't work for me, but I can see how narratively someone can appreciate this storytelling method or this performance or this decision. But I am really going to struggle with that tonight. We're going to break down, see my scene. I'm trying to think about it from different angles. Of course, as you all know, I just watched it live. Didn't have time to, fully process my thoughts. So we're going to navigate through this together, but I'm going to try to find some reasoning as we break down certain things. But off the top, man, off rip, this was just not a, finales aside, I didn't find this to be a good episode of television. Put aside that this is the final episode that we're going to probably get for the next 2 years, putting that aside, which is a big problem. That is a big problem. But putting that aside, this episode was just not structured well. It was just felt oddly backwards in the narrative they were presenting to us as in regards to how we got to certain events and how we came across certain things. But the thing that's just even more baffling is just like knowing that, and we'll talk about this further. I'm just venting at this point before we do the full breakdown, but the fact that you have Neil Druckmann, who we know to be, one of the creator of the game. He's a big part of this show. And the fact that you get a second at bat to tell a story, and again, I've told you guys millions of times, I've never played part 2. Big fan of the first game, played the first game multiple times, love these characters, love this story, love this world. But I just, by the time the second game came out, I just wasn't into gaming anymore. But I've still following along what was going on. I knew certain elements, the Abby killing Joel and yada, yada, yada. But the fact that Neil got a second at bat with this story, and again, from what I remember, I know the controversy that happened 4 or 5 years ago when the game came out, but I remember a lot of people talking about how well written the story was, how great the moments were, regardless of the shock value of Joel's death, like it all comes together. And I don't know who's at fault this season. Is it Neil? Is it Craig Mason? Is it HBO? Is it a combination of all three things? Like they're just trying so hard to be different from the game? Or B, I don't know, maybe is this a carbon copy of the game? I don't know. But I just know the way I'm feeling right now, it's just like this wasn't a good episode of television. On top of the fact this is a finale, on top of the fact we have to wait maybe 2.5 years before another season. This is not a good way to end your show for me. But yeah, we'll try to figure this out as we break it all down. With that said, as I've been doing, I'm gonna do an intro here because I'm gonna clip this out and put it out tomorrow morning as like a more edited version of tonight's discussion. And we're gonna figure out a way before we move on. Shout out to Paul, who's always been showing some super chats last few weeks, man. I appreciate you, Paul. I'm done with this series. When the show comes back 2 years from now, I will not give it a damn. I will not give a damn. This is CW level TV, which I think if you said that before, as far as CW, listen, CW, listen, Paul, to be fair, CW had some bangers of some shows for a while. Like Supernatural was one of my favorite shows for a while. First few seasons, Arrow, Flash was good. Legends of Tomorrow was good for a while. Black Lightning was good for a while. I mean, they've had good episodes, but I kind of understand your criticism as far as when the shows continued and they got progressively worse and worse as they went on. But I don't know if I'm going to throw it. I don't think I'm going to throw in a towel just because I am interested to see where it goes, because I have heard that this story comes full circle once you hit a certain point. But I can totally understand your sentiment, Paul, as far as just like, and I don't know, Paul, if you've played the game or not, or whatever your history is with this IP, but I can understand how a lot of people come from that point of view from what Paul is saying, just like throwing their hands up, being like, this is not good. And why would I show any faith in these showrunners or show writers when they've kind of fumbled the bag or fumbled the story? But shout out to Paul with super chat. Appreciate you, man. Cut it out, though. Goodness gracious. Thank you, Paul. All right, y'all. So let's get into it. Let's try to find a way to navigate this finale. So with that being said, happy finale to you all. Welcome back to tonight's live discussion, which is being edited to what you are seeing now for episode 7, the season finale of The Last of Us. And for some people, maybe the series finale, because man, we got a lot to discuss. Before we get into the discussion for this edited version, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listen to it on Apple or Spotify, do me a favor. If you enjoy the conversation, hit the like button, share the video, share the audio, subscribe to the channel, follow the podcast formats on Apple and Spotify. I would appreciate that. So tonight's episode was a doozy. I'll be honest. We'll break it down. We'll try to find some positives, but I'll be upfront with you all. This was not a good episode of television. And then when you add into the fact that this is a finale of a story that's been so inconsistent, a story that's been kind of handled poorly, in my opinion, as I've expressed the last 4 weeks. Episodes 1 and 2. Episode one came out the gate a little stagnant for a premiere, but sets things up. Episode 2, as we all know, was the shocking episode. A lot of emotions through that episode with the death of Joel, and obviously the the war and everything going on, battle for Jackson. Episode 3 was a bit of a grieving episode, stepping back and reflecting off of the big loss. And then episode 4 and 5 came around. And again, I'm not going to rehash my thoughts about those episodes. You can see my thoughts that's available to check out, but wasn't a fan of how they handled some of the narrative and some of the lack of priority of why Dina and Ellie were in Seattle, and how that storyline was handled. And of course there were moments we met Isaac, we get to Spores, and then episode 6 comes around, which was last week's episode, emotionally satisfying, getting that flashback sequences with Joel. And now we're here. And if you couldn't tell, again, from my episode 1 thoughts, kind of meandering, episode 2, episode 3, can understand, episode 4, 5, 6, and 7. It's been a roller coaster of a season, and not one that I would say was enjoyable for the most part. What I mentioned with 2 episodes out of 7, which is another issue that I have. Why do we, this is Disney Plus, 7 episode seasons after almost 2.5 years of being off of the air. Let's get to it. Let's just get into this discussion, man. Let's try to navigate this conversation, starting off with our opening sequence here. We open this episode with obviously seeing the aftermath of Dina getting shot in the leg and her being afraid to hit the artery. And, as the conversations happening between her and Jesse, which, by the way, this is their first time seeing each other in a few days. There's obviously some concern on his part. There's some animosity and nervousness on Dina's part because of the baby of it all. And in this scene, she and Jesse brings this up later on in the episode about the way she worded, "I can't die," right? Not like I'm afraid to die. I can't die. And he's a smart enough fellow to kind of understand that the way that she was speaking, and also noticing the relationship between the shift of the relationship between Dina and Ellie that he's seen so far. And I guess my thing with the do not tell, won't tell situation between why Dina wouldn't tell him and the situation of what's going on with him being a father to her child. I'm trying to, I guess there's a time and a place, but I would think this is the time and the place if she's fearful for maybe, hitting the artery, maybe bleeding out. Maybe this is the last time they're going to speak with each other. And maybe there needs to be a better sense of urgency of how he needs to be more attentive to her wounds because she is pregnant. Well, not just any child, but his child. So I am kind of confused on why Dina has not told him at this point that there is a child at risk. If she loses her life, there's 2 lives at risk. I am a little bit taken aback by that. I'm trying to wrap my head. Again, I know these are trying times. There's infected, there's seraphites, there's wolves. She's concerned about her girlfriend, and it's concerned about Tommy, and it's a lot going on in Dina's head. But I would think the number one priority would be the concern and the safety of my child. But as we've seen so far, I don't know if the safety of the child is a priority, just based on the fact that she's in she's out of Jackson and Seattle and risking a lot for Ellie. So yeah, I'm a little upset with Dina. It's been a character that I've been very much a fan of. I've loved the portrayal by Isabel, and I think another thing that kind of gets under my skin with this whole not telling Jesse is I really do feel bad for Jesse in the scenario and in this whole situation at hand. And I feel even worse for what happens to him at the end of this episode. And it just feels like a kind of a underused character in many ways, but we'll get to that part. But I wasn't a fan of, again, that lack of information that was given him. Now, of course, again, we know he knows, but it would have been, to me, mature of Dina to tell him in that moment. But again, that didn't happen. But we go on from here, And we see Ellie has made her way back to the theater, and she's checking on Dina, who is, she's going to live, she's going to survive. She's wounded. But the conversation that we have in this scene, obviously, there's a conversation I think was needed for sure, but a conversation I think was a little late for me. Let's set up the scene. So she comes in, she checks on Dina. She tells her what happened at the hospital with Nora, that she died, right? She punished her. She beat her up with the pipe to get a little information from her about obviously Abby. And she mentions two words, which was well or will. She didn't know what it meant, but obviously we find out what that meant later with the Ferris wheel. But we were under the assumption that she didn't hit her with the final blows to actually kill Nora, but it was, she was beaten down enough, and obviously the infection or the exposure to the spores was going to kill her. And we see a little sequence of we flash back to it a little bit, just to kind of when Ellie's expressing to Dina that she didn't feel remorse in the punishment she was displaying on Nora, and she kind of felt a little separated from herself as an individual with this willingness to invoke violence on someone that's invoked. It's a circle of violence. Yeah, obviously, that's a big theme of this particular story, this chapter 2. So I get all that. But I guess, is it too much to ask for maybe it is too much to ask for, but I would assume that they would have opened this episode, or at least maybe when we see Dina's been patched up, we cut back to the scene between Ellie and Nora in the will scene and the confusion of what she said, and we see her pass away, and we see how Ellie gets out of that situation. Because the last time, and this might be me, last time we saw Ellie at the hospital, she was being shot at by the wolves, who are well aware that there's an intruder in their facility, and she was able to make it out unscathed and alive. And we didn't see any of that. That's all off screen. We're just assuming, which is not good storytelling, just assuming that she, obviously she made it out okay, because she wouldn't be here. But that seemed like a missed opportunity for me to not show that. Again, Nora's death, the lifelessness behind Ellie's eyes of watching someone die basically at the palm of her hands, and she's the cause of Nora's death. We didn't see all that. I think that's a missed opportunity, another missed opportunity. That's 0 for 2 for me so far. The lack of conversation between Jesse and Dina, revealing that she's pregnant and that he's the father. And then Ellie making it out of the hospital, making it back to the theater, and not being challenged by the wolves and Seraphites. And in fact, it's just a pretty easy thing to do, I guess. But either way, we have the conversation that I think should have been had back in episode 4, or at least at the back end of episode 4, or at least at the beginning of episode 5, and that is, how is Ellie immune? How are you here? How are you able to not be turned into an infected? But that was, I guess, chronologically speaking, it's 2 days ago that happened, that would have been had. Or no, that was a day ago. That was day 2 that they woke up the next day after, falling, having their scene and all that stuff in episode 4. So it's in this moment that, after potentially thinking that she was going to lose Dina, Ellie confesses what happened in Utah. And clearly Dina wasn't aware of this. She explains what Joel did. We know the story. And, I will say, to try to touch on some of the positives here, and I will, try to navigate the positives here. But, from a performance standpoint, Isabel Marcet, the way that she receives that information was devastating for her, right? Because it shifts the whole perspective of this mission and this idea of the story she shared with Ellie in episode 5 about seeing her mom and sister die in front of her, and she had that satisfying killing the guy that was responsible for her death, but knowing how Ellie could have felt, not knowing why this person killed Joel and having that kind of in the back of her mind and that haunting her. But now hearing from Ellie that that wasn't the case. She knew what Joel did in Utah. She knew why Abby did what she did, but yet she still pushed forward for this mission that now not only compromises her, Dina, but Ellie. But now you got Tommy in the mix, you got Jesse in the mix, and you got a baby in the mix. So that bit of information is a game changer. And as we can see, again, I will give it props to when props are due. Isabel Marcet has been a home run for the majority of this season. She's really carried a lot, if I'm being honest, of the the Seattle plot. She's been the driving force of this plot that's been somewhat, not somewhat, but in my opinion, has been very underwhelming. So just looking at the pain in her eyes, the frustration, the confusion, the hatred, let's call it what it is. I mean, I'm pretty sure she's pretty pissed at Ellie at this point. And I'm making parallels to the moment on the porch with Ellie and Joel confessing what happened in Seattle. And I don't have we just saw the scene last week, but you guys can remember the face, the look of that disappointment and confusion that Ellie had. I mean, we're practically seeing a similar reaction from Dina here. That again, there's so much at risk here that we have put towards this mission, and you're not giving me all the information that could have swayed her decision to go to Seattle or not. So, like I said, I'll give them the props for that, and I'll give Isabel the props for that. And narratively speaking, this changes their relationship moving forward. There's a level of dishonesty, or I guess you can call it dishonesty, because she didn't. Would you call it a lie, or she withdrew that information from her? So, but either way, like I said, narratively speaking, it does set up this tension between the two, and it even adds more fuel to this tension after what happens to Jesse, right? When you put things in perspective, and again, we'll talk about the ending on where these characters are positioned, but it is a pretty devastating thing to learn from the person that you have just, like I said, put your life at risk for. So it will be interesting to see how different they're going to react to each other in 6 years when we see them again. Because apparently, we'll talk about it later, but apparently season 3 is going to be Abby focused. I would imagine they're going to intercut it with what's going on with Dina and Ellie. I'm sure the baby's going to be born by then, and the morning of, well, again, the cliffhanger, I'm assuming Ellie and Dina's going to make it out of this situation, but how is the question, right? Does Tommy make it out? Well, obviously, we'll talk about Jesse later, but again, the question of the hour is when will we see these characters again, and particularly Dina and Ellie, considering that it has been confirmed that season 3 will be very Abby-centric, based on Catherine O'Hare's comments a couple weeks ago. She was talking to Variety or Deadline, and she confirmed that it's an Abby season. And from what I understand from the narrative from the game, there is a big portion of the game that you as the player play as Abby. So we'll talk about that later. But in the meantime, let me see what you guys are talking about before we continue tonight's discussion. All right, let me see again. Shout out to Paul with the super chat earlier, showing some love. I appreciate that. Kevin, the whole boat sequence was definitely rushed. The whole boat sequence was definitely unnecessary to me. Kevin, if you're referring to her getting on the boat and taking a little pit stop to get hung for 2 seconds and released, we'll definitely talk about that. Ellie's a narcissist. That's her problem. This episode should have been 90 minutes. I'm over these short 6 to 8 episode seasons. Personally, only have to wait. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I am right there with you. Vic, let me tell you, the plot armor is pretty thick, but also it's pretty ridiculous the way that you can have a character we've seen it before, many different movies and shows where the characters are put in these positions where they shouldn't make it out, but they find a way. But it's always the execution from the writers, from the direction of like making sense, right? It's just not like a coin flip, just the luck of the draw, but it has to make sense narratively. And there was a lot of points this season that Ellie just kind of made it out just based on pure luck, and also just like comics, right, or anything, any narrative. When there's a book being written, the storyteller is the one that controls the fate of these characters. So, but the plot armor was very thick, and it was to the point that it made it distracting because how convenient it was, but also how clumsy it was handled. So yeah. Should have been 10 episode season, tell a story to discuss. Yeah, I'll try to find that way to weave in towards the end my overall thoughts of this season, the shortcomings of 7 episodes, the HBO of it all, because the HBO in the last year or so has been very upfront about budgets and their shows and movies being affected by that. Hence House of the Dragon being cut a couple episodes short. Obviously, the cut of this season. But I'm sure they'll tell you, it was always meant to be 7 episodes. It's like, okay, you can push that story all you want. There was definitely some budgetary reasons why there was a shorter season. But yeah. This was all right. Keep the comments coming. Again, I'll try to check in with you guys throughout the breakdown, but I appreciate you again. Just a little friendly reminder, if you guys could, to show some support to the channel. Thumbs up goes a long way. It spreads the conversation to more audience members, people that want to discuss this episode. So hit that thumbs up. Consider sharing. Consider subscribing if you're new. Sometimes it's very rare, not to get too much into the weeds, but if you're a YouTuber, it's very rare for YouTube to push out lives to new audience members, unless, again, the people that are watching hit the share button, hit the like button. But not all the time where you're going to find new subscribers. But in that rare case that you get 1 or 2 new people that stumble across the channel, I hope you guys are having fun and consider sticking around by subscribing. But enough of me yapping. Let's get back to the breakdown. So we move forward to the next day. And this is day 3 of the Seattle journey. And on day 3, we have, Dina's recovering. Tommy's still out there. Unknown. Is he alive or dead? But the conversation at hand is the love triangle, right? Between Dina, Ellie, and RIP to Jesse. So the conversation, there's tension. There's obviously some animosity. There's obviously some, a competition of the sorts of someone's love and someone's attention. Obviously, they're both in the crosshairs of Dina and her, interest in both characters. But, they're both trying to stay focused. But at the same time, there's some tension there. And again, I don't want to pick sides, but I'm just being honest. I'm 100% down from Jesse's perspective. And if I'm being honest, I think narratively, as an audience member, I don't think it's a stretch to say that the writers and the way the story is being told, I think you're supposed to feel for Jesse in a sense of like, yeah, I would be pissed. I would be upset. I would be kind of short with my responses to Ellie, because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. As he tells her later in the episode, when the committee came to voting what we should do, what we shouldn't do, then, he revealed that he voted no, which was a conversation we had a couple episodes ago. In episode 3, we assumed that the votes they got was from Maria, Tommy, and Jesse, but that wasn't the case. It was someone else was that third vote. So that's pretty telling. But either way, there's tension in the room. Dina has yet to tell, again, an opportune time. They're not under stress. They're not under fire. They're not under being, attacked. I thought this would have been an appropriate time to bring it up yet again, that she's pregnant and there's stakes at hand. Again, knowing that Jesse knows, but again, they don't know that Jesse knows at this point, especially Dina. But there's a tension there. There's an understanding that there is a there's something being not spoken about. And again, you can feel the tension in the room. And unfortunately, if we're, I guess, thinking about it, is this the last time that Jesse is going to see Dina, if I'm not mistaken, as far as just narratively speaking? I think this is the last time that at least the three of them is in one room together. And I think this is the last time that Jesse, because we don't know what Jesse did after and we'll talk about it with him and Ellie go their separate ways. But I think this is the last time that they're in a room together, which is kind of unfortunate that she didn't get the true opportunity to tell him that she's pregnant and that he's the father. And again, this tension, this unspoken reveal has not been revealed quite yet, but here we have it here. So Dina's back at the theater. She's recuperating. She's recovering. Barricade the door. We're going to find Tommy. We'll be back as soon as possible. And we have, the two people that's fighting for Dina's heart out there looking for Tommy. And the conversation's kind of brought up. And, I am glad that Ellie at least acknowledged, she thanked him for coming, because if it wasn't for Jesse, she would be dead. Both of them would be dead. And I'm referring to Dina and Ellie. The luck of the draw saved her. But they're conversating. And again, I'm Team Jesse right now. The fact that he has this level of maturity and understanding the situation and not, crashing out and being illogical and being, just kind of super upset, because he has every reason to be upset. But the reason he's able to compose himself and handle himself in a manner that doesn't compromise their safety. They have the conversation. He's just like, what happened back at the hospital? She's not telling him, and he reveals how he was able to find them at the theater. It was kind of another luck of the draw situation. Him and Tommy were able to find them. But the conversation gets brought up that he knows what's up. Things have changed between Dina and Ellie. There's a look in the eyes they give each other. He knows that they're a thing now. He understands that. I think he's able to mature enough to accept that. But then he brings up the way that Dina phrased her not dying the night before, and the way she phrased it was obviously she's not fighting for just her life, but the life of someone else, and that's their child. And he obviously understands that that's his child, and his number one priority here on out, even though this was probably his number one priority anyway, was probably Dina. But even more so is not only Dina, but protecting his child. And again, if I'm being honest, man, and again, this is maybe where my video game enthusiasts come into play and fill me in. But I feel like this whole buildup of Jesse, I think the performance was good, but I just feel like there was more scenes with Jesse. There could have been more to been had with Jesse to really build up the character, to really build the relationship between Dina. But also, we started the season with him and Ellie and kind of get to understand that they have a friendship and whatnot. And I love that the show never made him to be out like a, stereotypical guy that probably acts out of, anger because his girl left him for another girl and what have you. I'm glad they didn't go that route. But there were, the YA vibes were definitely strong in the season between the love triangle. But again, going back to my thoughts, I just wish there was more time to spend with Jesse. And I blame the 7 episodes on that. I blame the structuring of this season, the way that they, dedicated time on certain things that just didn't really feel fulfilled. And again, I don't want the negativity to cloud the performances in this show are carrying this show. It's really unfortunate that you don't have, and this is just my opinion, that the actors have to surpass the writing because they're going beyond the words on the page. Luckily, we have people that are able to elevate their characters, even though they're not getting the backup from the writers. Because, man, if you really think about it, we got like a handful of like meaty scenes with Jesse. There wasn't a lot to pick from this season, But again, the way the actor plays it, whether the way he carries himself, the way he speaks about certain things, you can tell that there's history in the way he conveys himself and the way he delivers his lines. And the same goes for, Dina and Ellie and all the actors, to me, elevate something that was the biggest issue with this show, which was the writing. I'm sorry if you guys can hear my dog there. So shout out to the acting, man, because they weren't given any favors this season to really elevate the material, because it just was not given to them, unfortunately. And that happens. But as we navigate through our next moments here, I will bring this up too here. Let me pull this up and have a little side quest. The Seraphites, the wolves, Seraphites, the war at hand. Very, when they introduced this in episode 4, that was the thing that carried those episodes for me, was Isaac, Seraphites, the wolves, the lore, the backstory, the beef that they had. That was something that kept me intrigued with those episodes that were kind of the weaker episodes of the season. They hint at it again. The leader. I feel like kind of a oxymoron what I'm going to say here, but as intrigued that I was about those subplots, almost based on the lack of satisfaction, the lack of completion of telling that story, or at least giving us enough to kind of really chew on to get excited for the next season. I almost wish they didn't introduce as much as they did, because I don't feel like it was fulfilling in the context of this show, because we don't know anything else about this prophet, their beliefs, where this war stems from. Again, I know that's where probably I would imagine season 3 is going to dive more into that, but let me know how you all felt about and this is for my gamers and also people like me that's just watching this show for the first time, or watching the story unfold for the first time. Do you feel, I won't say fulfilled, because I understand this is teasing what's to come, but for the stuff that we did get this season with the Seraphites and the prophet and all that, do you guys feel like that's it was handled in a way that makes you excited, nervous, intrigued, disinterested? Because I'm kind of torn. I feel like there was just, we don't know more about any of this than what we knew 3 episodes ago, which is kind of frustrating, because again, it's like if you're spinning, and again, it's weird because that was the stuff that intrigued me, it kept me in there, but it's just like it didn't have a payoff. So what I'm getting at is like, did we even need to spend time with that stuff? And Isaac, and a little bit of Isaac they threw in there, like what a waste for Jeffrey Wright to appear in the cold opening in episode 4, the scene in the kitchen, did he talk to the woman with the spores? No, that was the other woman. He only got 3-4 scenes. I don't know, man. I just feel like this is again mismanaging the story and how much time we spend and how you allocate the show and how you allocate the stories. It was just too many things that just felt incomplete and just felt unsatisfying and underwhelming. So it's, like I said, it's a catch-22 or an oxymoron of a sense of like those were the most intriguing things about the story, but the way that we end the story, it just feels like, I don't want to say a waste, but it just feels like it was underwhelming is the word that comes to mind right now. But again, this kind of leads into this next scene here, which is a pivotal moment to Jesse and this idea of this circle of continuing the violence. We have Jesse, we have Dina again looking for Tommy. They come across, they hear some gunshots, they hide behind a garbage can, and they see a wolves circling down, chasing down a Seraphite, and he appears to be a young man. And a little frustrating, not little, but more than a little. This is definitely frustrating. Ellie wants to be the hero and save this kid, just wants to jump behind the trash can and take on these wolves, these 6 wolves, not knowing if they have backup and more people behind them. In her mind, she sees I'm trying to make sense of her reaction to this, which is just, again, it's just like these decisions that she's making these last few episodes in this season has been very, and I think some of that is purposeful because she's driven by vengeance, which again, I feel like that story has been handled in a way that hasn't been satisfying. But she is acting out of, I guess the only thing I can think of is maybe she sees a version of herself in a sense of like, this is a young man being chased down, his life is on the line. It's going to be, she obviously is aware of this beef between the Seraphites and the wolves. And she's taken out the fact that this Seraphite that's been chased down is a part of this terrible group that, murders men, women, and children. But I think she's kind of putting that to the side because she sees a version of herself to when she was a child. And when, Joel found her and saved her and made the decision to didn't save her. Obviously he was meant to put her on that path to smuggle her for the cure or whatnot. But I don't know, maybe she just sees a version of herself where she sees that level of vulnerability. And if someone was in her position to save her, then she should be able to pay it forward, I guess. I don't know. Because I'm just so confused with the narrative they're trying to tell with Ellie. At the beginning of the episode, she talks about how she was almost a shell of herself when she was harming Nora, almost like she was leaning into the violence and she didn't have that level of remorse or that level of humanity is kind of escaping her. But then to fast forward to have her having this sympathy for this person she doesn't know, the one thing she does know is this person is a part of a group that murders people. I don't know. It's kind of a weird narrative that I'm as you can see in real time. I'm trying to, but Jesse speaks sense to her. Like, listen, your moral compass, cool, that's good for you to have, but this isn't the time and the place. We can't save everyone, and especially people that murder people. Like, it's a good sentiment, but we need to be logical here. So, let me know what you all thought about Ellie, how you all interpreted that scene and why she was so upset with Jesse, and also how she was willing to, compromise them in a situation. Do you all feel as though it comes from a position of feeling like that was her at one point in time, and if someone were to save her, she would want to do the same? Make it make sense. Help me out in the comments. But again, before moving on, let me check in with my live awesome people out there that could have been anywhere in the world. I mean, you can help. With it being Memorial Day, the barbecues, the family and friends over. Hopefully you have a day off work tomorrow. You could be doing anything, but if you guys are here chilling with your boy, I really appreciate that. So let me check in with y'all and see what's the comments in the comment section. Hashtag justice for Jesse. Yeah, we will get to that.
So maybe it was
out of nowhere death here in a second. I'm just trying to find get the right angle for the next scene or the next breakdown moment. Hold on one second. There we go. All right. Yeah, Jay. Justice for Jay, man. Goodness gracious. Justice for Jesse. Young really commanding each scene. Young, who's young? Oh, that's the actor's name, right? That plays Jesse. Yeah, he did command each scene. He was great. Like I said, he carried more than what he was given. Yeah. Yeah, the little bit of the breadcrumbs we were given was it's a shame. One-off episode, like yeah, they should have. I mean, we did get the one-off episode with the flashbacks, but yeah, it would have been nice to get another episode from the perspective of whether that's a Seraphite or a wolf or one of Abby's crew or Abby herself, right? That would have been maybe beneficial for the audience. They had Jeffrey Wright for a half a day. LOL. Is that you being funny, or are you like, is that for real? Like they were only able to get him for that little bit of time? Is Jesse dead or was that Abby's dream? No, he's dead. I mean, Abby's dream. I guess I can see where you're coming from as far as the way that the scene was cut. Like it went to black and she woke up, and I guess you could interpret it like she was dreaming. But no, I think that would be criminally terrible to do that, to write that, because that would make that just undoes the whole episode. So no, I don't think that's the case, because that would astronomically destroy this show from a narrative. So I'm pretty confident. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure, and we'll talk about the scene because I guess you could interpret it that way. I guess we'll talk about it further later when we get to that point. But I didn't interpret it as her dreaming the death in that night. I just took it as her waking up, and we're gonna start season 3 from her point on, from her day one of Seattle to leading up to those events. But it's interesting to think of it that way. But I'm pretty confident that all was in real time. Vic says, "I'm so pissed." I hear you. Knicks won. So cool. Shout out to the Knicks. I know they were struggling those first 2 games. We can hear the audio, Elliot. Hear the audio of what? Of the episode. Oh, snap. Did I not? Oh, thank you. I hope that didn't flag anything. Hold on. Are we still? Thank you, Aisha. I did not know that was happening. I think I paused it at one point, but I appreciate you letting me know. Thank you. But yeah, keep the comments coming. You guys are helping me get through this wonky episode. But getting back to the conversation at hand, we cut to this scene here. Again, this episode is just like a ping pong. We're back and forth with just not a lot of subtext. Just things are happening. And we're in the middle of this war that I don't fully understand the why. And I understand it's probably purposeful, and we'll learn further events as the show goes on. But the conversation at hand, we have the character we met in episode 4 who lost her son to the spores, and she made the decision of sacrificing her son and his crew to not expose the rest of the wolves to the spores. And it's, a pretty big decision because it's almost the opposite of what Joel did. He wasn't able to sacrifice Ellie, and we know what happened with that. So we meet her again. She's talking to Isaac, and the conversation's at hand about preparation for this oncoming war and the confidence that Isaac displayed when we first met him, when he killed that Seraphite in the kitchen. He made it seem like we have armies on armies. You guys are not anywhere near a threat to us. But secretly, I guess the Seraphite was right. It's like, yeah, you might have the numbers, but we have the people that's really willing to die for what they believe in, and we've even converted some of your people. So it's just a matter of time before if we can withstand some of your onslaught and survive these drawn out wars. It's just a matter of time before we have the numbers, right? And he pretty much says that to this character that he's in a scene with, that it's just you're gonna probably die, I'm gonna die, and he said tomorrow, which I don't know if he's a prophet. I don't know how he knows that, but anyway, he says to her, there's a importance about Abby. Where's Abby? And I'm who cares? Why is Abby so important? Besides, obviously, we know Abby's a key character for the overall story with the connection with Joel and Ellie. But what's the importance of Abby to the context of the wolves and Isaac? Well, Isaac tells her and tells us, the audience, that Abby's important because she is the second in command. She's going to be taking up the mantle. Once I'm gone, she's going to continue our legacy and continue the wolves. Let me make myself big here. I'm sorry, what? Who? Abby's the leader of the wolves now? She's been the second in command this whole time. Why are we just finding this out now? Oh, that's right, because we haven't seen Abby in 6 weeks. What? So Abby's important to this mission, or important to the wolves, because she's supposed to take over, because apparently Isaac and his team and his crew and the majority of the wolves are going to die the next day. So, okay. Why surround us with so much secrecy, so much mystery? Again, I understand this is a show. You gotta tease your audience. You gotta make them come back to understand the context. But it's just like, and again, they wrote this 2-3 years ago. They shot this over a year ago. You can't, they're not obviously editing these episodes week by week. They can't change things based on the reception in real time as we're watching the story unfold. But I don't know. Maybe they thought they were cooking. They were cooking with gas. They're like, ooh, they gonna be chewing this up. They gonna be sitting at home wondering what's going on. Why is Abby, it's just like, that intrigue is not exciting for me, because the way it's been handled thus far has been so clunky and so inconsistent, and just things are just happening just for the sake of happening. And again, I know this is based on a obviously the video game. I am so curious to know if the way that this structuring of this story has been told, that is told this way in a video game. And I know the video game does, like, you're playing it in real time, you're getting flashbacks, so filling in the blank, which obviously, when you're playing a game, that storytelling method can be, more digestible, I guess is the word I'm looking for, because you're playing the game, you're in the game, and cutscenes. So I understand the way you can tell a story in that narrative. But when you're telling a structured television series in a 7-episode format, I don't know if the way that they're giving us these little bits of information, I don't think it's enough information to feel fulfilled. These little breadcrumbs aren't fulfilling, for me at least. But yeah, the reveal of Abby being so important, and it's like, what's going on, bro? Like, you haven't led anything to that. And also too, the idea of Abby being second in command, maybe I missed this, or maybe I'm misinterpreting this or misunderstood this, but I was led to believe that the last 5 years, Abby's been kind of in and out of the wolves. Like, she's been so gun-ho on killing Joel that she's been not following orders from Isaac and the wolves, and she's been solo with her little crew, Owen and Noah, or Nora, and Mel, and I don't know, Manny. I was under the impression that she's been, like I said, doing her own thing against Isaac's orders. So I don't know. I would think that Isaac would not want someone that's so committed to her own missions, that he would want her to lead this legacy, because she can go off and do her own thing and not be so down for the cause. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. And even though the woman in the scene brings up, are you in love with her? Do you have like a romantic relationship? Like, why is she so important? Again, if she is so important to the cause and to the mission, shouldn't she know that she's the next in command? Shouldn't she know that Abby is so important to this crew? Like, shouldn't that be like that everyone shows respect to Abby because she is looked at and so, I don't know, revered by Isaac? Like, I don't know. This doesn't make sense to me at all. The way that they're handling this this importance of Abby and her being so key to the Wolves' legacy. I don't know. That again, this is just another example of a scene that just feels pointless. I don't know. I shouldn't say pointless, but it just feels out of context, because again, this episode felt so focused on next season more so than the story they were telling now. And it makes everything that's happening now feel unearned is the word that's coming to mind. Speaking of unearned, again, we have this not really back and forth, but these little filler moments of Ellie and Jesse. And I think the show is using these little check-ins to give the audience, to build us up to the moment of what's going to happen later, right? Instead of spending previous episodes on building the character Jesse, we're just going to jam it into this last episode and give you little cutscenes, little 2-minute, 3-minute conversations between Ellie and Jesse to build that level of sympathy, to build that level of connection to the character. Again, I like Jesse for the little bit that we have been given with him, but again, I know you can't, obviously hindsight 2020, but could you imagine how much more impactful Jesse's death, which again, the way that was even handled was just so like, whoa, what we'll get to the execution, pun intended, a little bit later, but these little moments here are to inform us as an audience that Jesse's a good guy, right? I should have got the book because I'm going to be a father now. And, I was raised in Jackson, and I was always raised to care for others more than myself, to prioritize one's life over, over my own life. And that's his community. And there's a pushback. And when she uses the word, well, we'll talk about the community a little bit later, but there's just a moral understanding that Jesse's a good guy, right? Again, I don't know if he's a good guy, bad guy, somewhere in the middle of the video game, but the characterization of Jesse this season, this show, this live action adaptation, he's a good guy. His moral compass, he's always doing the right thing, even if it's, at the risk of him losing his own life. As he said, I was taught to care for my community. So again, these scenes are, at least to me, are meant to make us feel a way about Jesse, and meant to build up this level of connection from the audience, to be like, oh man, Jesse's just a good old dude, which he is. But again, it's kind of cheap to me, the way that they're throwing in these moments of building currency with the audience, building good faith, goodwill with the audience to make us care for a character that they're going to ultimately kill in such a quick manner. But as the conversation continues between these two, they're now, they're hearing on a walkie-talkie that, it appears that Tommy has some of the wolves pinned down, that he's, they're calling for backup, but he's able to hold his own, which, by the way, I'm just going to say this now. Again, I talked about the knowledge that I knew about the game prior to going into this season without having played the game. But one of the things that was abundantly clear that they have diverted from the video game was the fact that Tommy was the one in the room with Joel when he died, and not Dina. And in the video game, from what I understand, with him being in there with the death of his brother, this put Tommy, again, speaking to the video game, this put Tommy on this path of bloodthirst. Like, apparently he's in the game, Tommy, he goes to Seattle before Dina and Ellie go to Seattle, and Jesse. And apparently he's capping fools left and right, taking them out. Boom, 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 boom. Bodies on bodies on bodies, right? I don't watch the show, but I've seen the clip from Snowfall. Bodies. I don't know. I might be misquoting that, but he's got blood on his hands. He's on a vengeful tale in the video game, which makes sense to me. But obviously they went a different route because, and again, I don't know if he had the child with Maria in the game, and maybe the reason they changed that up is because he's, a family man. He wants to protect. He's more of the leader of Jackson, so they didn't want to, I guess, compromise him in this second telling of the show. I don't know why they switched. They made that switch and making him more sympathetic to what happened to his brother, and not really have that hatefulness and vengefulness and revenge that, from what I understand, is coming from the game. So, Tommy's out there doing his thing, holding down the fort, and there's a conversation being had as far as, again, going back to the community conversation, the going down two paths. They understand that Tommy is under, he's holding down the fort for now, but it's just a matter of time before the reinforcements come. So Jesse suggests that we go follow the gunshots, and it's not confirmed that he's there, but it's a pretty good chance that that's Tommy, that they can go help and save and go back home. Ellie has other plans. She sees a Ferris wheel in the foreground and puts two and two together. Oh, she didn't say well, she said wheel, and well, the way the writing happens, let me put two and two together. She must have meant the Ferris wheel, which, again, I don't know why they didn't just show us that scene, but it's just like, why would that be her final two words, and why would she reveal that to her if she's dying? I don't know. That doesn't make sense. Now I'm thinking about it. Why would Nora give her that information if she knew she was going to die anyway? That makes no sense. But she figures out she needs to go to the Ferris wheel, and she's like, forget Tommy, forget Dina, forget you, Jesse. I need to kill Abby. This goes back to her decision in episode 5 when she was in the woods and they were being, under fire. And instead of for her checking in on Dina, checking on Tommy, checking on Jesse, she decided to go to the hospital and again compromise everyone's life to get her mission, which is to kill Abby or at least find out where Abby is. So at least there's some, consistency there that when push comes to shove, the mission all of a sudden is the priority. And I'm being sarcastic because episode 4 or 5, you wouldn't even know that Ellie knew who Joel was the way she was acting. She was more concerned about being a father than getting revenge on the father she had that was killed in front of her. But that's the past. We'll leave that in the past. But she wants to go down with this mission, and the word community comes up, and I guess there's this ideology of how he views his community is more important than her mission. His community is more important than Joel, and in Ellie's eyes, her community was Joel. Again, let's go back to episode 4 and 5. That wasn't the case, but anyway, she decides that she's gonna go to the Ferris wheel, and assuming, again, she tells Jesse, "You're assuming that that's Tommy. We don't know that, but you're assuming the wheel thing was what she was referring to. So you're going to go that route." I don't know, make it make sense narratively and writing wise. But anyway, 2 wrongs don't make a right. He's going to go. He wishes her the best of luck. He's going to go save Tommy because, again, I remind you, Ellie, Tommy, Jesse risked their lives to come save you. And yeah, anyway, she decides to go that route. He's going to go his route. But if you can't tell, I'm a bit frustrated. And again, I understand that most of this is meant to be purposeful. At this point in the story, we are supposed to be, as an audience member, upset with the decisions being made by our main character. It is a tough thing. It's a challenging thing to have the audience, push against their hero, push against the lead of the show. It's a tough thing to put your audience in, right? It's a tough thing to navigate, to balance, to make it so that you don't, how do I put this? There's so many different stories where it is meant to be tough for you to be on board with your lead of the show, the hero of the show. But there's a way to go about it where it doesn't feel like it's fundamentally compromising the character's capabilities and going against what we've known of the character. And what I'm getting at here is the way that the character has been handled and has been written so far. The decisions being made just comes off dumb. Doesn't come off like she's leading with anger. She's leading with vengefulness. She's leading with hate, but it's just coming off dumb, like very dumb. That's my issue with how the Ellie, like, again, I can fully be on board with, like, she's making some really bad decisions, man, but she's mad. She's upset. She's grieving. Like, I can understand that when we're grieving, we do some illogical things. We do compromise ourselves and our loved one. That's fully understandable. I can accept that. But it's just that the execution of it is just like, it's been such a whirlwind of writing that it's just like, it doesn't make sense. It just comes off lazy. It comes off out of left field, these feelings, these decisions that she's making, and it's just frustrating, man. Is the moral of what I'm getting at. It's just really, really frustrating, and it makes Ellie just comes off just not good to me. as we navigate to the back half of this episode, and this is where things, at this point in the episode, I'm just kind of, and again, for those that watch the live watch party, you can see where I was at, but I was still on, we got 20 minutes to maybe conclude this, at this point in the episode, conclude this very mediocre finale. It is now nighttime, and Ellie's getting closer and closer to the Ferris wheel, and she sees two people walking on the boardwalk, and she has her gun out, and I guess she's assuming one of them might be Abby, even though she can't confirm this, but she's about to take the shot, but then Isaac and his crew come up, and again, this is where my confusion comes up. They're handing them over what I'm assuming is weapons, maybe even bombs. I don't know. Maybe that's how he knew they were going to die that night, because maybe they're going to kamikaze a situation where they're going to like set off a bomb and take out themselves and take out as many Seraphites as possible. I don't know. But they're exchanging something in a box. What's in the box? They're exchanging things in a box, and she sees this, and she sees a boat that's just magically there. She sees a boat. She gets on the boat, and giving credit where credit is due. The show, even though I feel like they shortchanged us with the episode count and only 7 episodes, but production has always been a pillar of the show. The look, the design, the tangibleness of the show, and just how they really kind of put you in the character's shoes, right? And when they're in peril, and man, I tell you, I don't have a good screen grab of it because it's just so dark, but the scene in which Ellie is crossing that water to get to the Ferris wheel, and the water's clashing, the thunder, like that looked good. That looked really good. But unfortunately, that visual, being impressed by the visuals, doesn't hold that much weight, because my goodness, I have no idea what the purpose of this moment that follows what she does. This to me made no sense. Before we move on, I'm going to check in. I'm going to turn my air on because it's getting a little hot in here, but let me set the scene. Then we get a good screen grab of what happens next. And I'm going to check in with you guys in 2 seconds. Let me turn the air on, and I will be, can we get a good screen grab? All right, there we go. I'll be right back, guys. Give me 2 seconds. All right, let me see what you guys are talking about. Ellie's giving that touch. Ellie is giving touched at this point. Giving touched at this point. What's that mean? Plot armor. Oh, you're talking about like I don't know, knocking her out because she's making so many crazy decisions. Future Jackson was just murdered. Yeah, we'll talk about that crazy quick flash scene several times. Jesse is good. Yeah. We needed 2 more episodes. Agreed. Because she's a badass. Who's a badass? Ellie? I mean, not based on this season. She is the complete opposite of badass in my eyes. She's almost just like a bumbling, I don't want to say idiot, but just a bumbling, whatever the lack of a badass is, whatever the opposite of badass is what Ellie was this season to me. I don't think she had one badass moment this season, if I'm being honest, which is very unfortunate because she is a badass. And I'm not even talking about the video game. I'm talking about the Bella Ramsey version of Ellie. We've seen her be a badass, but for some reason, I don't know what the freak was going on in that writer's room, man. That's wild the way they written this character. But let me rewind. Let me see if I can find a shot of the little boy staring at her randomly. Let's see. There we go. So in the middle of the storm, Ellie makes it across. The waves. Nothing's gonna take Ellie out. She can't be bitten. She can't be shot. She can't be. She's good. Titanic can't take her out. No wave, no water, no nothing. She makes it to the island, to where the hideout is of Abby. At least that's where she's assuming that's where Abby's gonna be. She makes it on shore. She sees this little kid. Shout out to the chat. Aisha, I think it was Aisha, someone that was during the watch party. I brought up the Children of the Corn, which is 100% accurate. I would rather be watching Children of the Corn and all the terrible sequels more than what we got tonight, because especially this next scene, because man, I don't even know what's going on anymore. Little kid sees her, warns the crew, rest of the Seraphites, that there's an intruder on the island. And man, I really don't know the purpose of this scene. Ellie gets dragged up, gets scooped up again. Her legs are now broken, or not. She's not able to use her legs. She's crawling on the sand, on the shore. Her gun doesn't work anymore. Her instinct to survival is broken. She's picked up by the Seraphites. They take her to their spot where they are going to do what they do best, which is murder people in a very violent manner. The Ellie sees the kid again and says, "Hey, you know me, right? We just met each other 2 seconds ago. You know I'm not a wolf or a Seraphite, right, kid? Right. Tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your people we're all good, man. We're Gucci." Little kid says, "I don't know you. I don't know who you are. But you're gonna die." I mean, he does the whatever, zip, 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 thumbs up from Gladiator. You're done. So they begin to hang her. They tie her neck up, hang her, and there's a disturbance in the force. There's something going on in the village. Again, I'm assuming that goes back to what was in those crates, was bombs, missiles, explosions that Isaac had. And I don't know if they took out their own lives in order to kill the Seraph. I don't know. We'll find out in 2039. But anyway, before the explosion goes off, they understand there's a situation going on in the village. So they say, "Hey, you know what? You're the lead of this show, so no way we're going to kill you. Cut her down. We got bigger fish to fry." And Ellie proceeds to run away, go on the same boat. Her legs are working. Can't forget that. Her legs are now working. She runs back to the boat. She gets on the boat, and as she's driving away, explosions. So yeah, what was the point of that scene? Was it's to show us that Ellie cannot be killed, no matter what. Luck is on her side. X-Men fans, Domino, y'all remember Domino, played by Zazie Beetz in Deadpool 2, how she can, Domino had her immune abilities was like this sense of being lucky, extremely lucky. So I didn't know we were gonna get a crossover. I didn't know the Domino's abilities transferred to Ellie, whose superpower is to avoid death at any cost. She defeats death at any corner. She brings death to others, but she's immune to death. That's her superpower. So yeah, that was the purpose of that scene. Explosions. Ellie is a superhero with the world's best luck. She makes it off the island, and she is able to find the base that Abby's at. Again, if there's one thing we know about Seattle is that very similar to the video game, I'm assuming, when you play the game Last of Us, you have your map. As the user, you can see the maps, you know where you're going. I'm assuming that they do this in the game or in the we don't know it, but the show, all the characters know exactly where things are, right? Jesse and Tommy knew exactly how to find a theater. They said that their lives was at risk, but they made it okay there. Also, Abby was able to find a theater pretty easily because, again, if you think about the video game, there's like normally, depending on the level you're playing at, like they give you like hints, like, oh, you need to go here. It's like little arrows, and the map tells you exactly where you go. So again, using that understanding of how the video game is used, apply that logic to this show, where she knew exactly where to find Abby at this hideout. So, man, Ellie makes it inside this facility. She's navigating through. Again, big area. You would imagine pretty tough to find, especially with the Seraphites being just around the way. Abby, I would imagine they would deep down into this area. But Ellie finds them pretty quickly. Maybe she smelled them. I don't know. Maybe she the map. I just told you why she was able to find them. The map, the built-in map. She finds them, and we see Owen and Mel, I think are the characters' names. Haven't seen them since episode 2. It would have been nice to maybe check in with them periodically throughout this season. Would have been nice to maybe know that she was pregnant, but shock value. Got to get that for the viewership. Ellie finds them holding a gun like it's a water gun. And prior to her catching up to them or interrupting the conversation, again, we're given these crumbs of information. There's a conversation about, we're not going with Isaac. You go with, you always choose Abby. Blah, blah, blah. I'm assuming, I don't know if this is like, I don't know if Mel and I don't even know if these, I think these are Mel and Owen. I think these are the characters' name. Again, Sally and Sue at this point, because we barely have met these characters because they just been little cameos at this point. It could be Roger and Sydney. Anyway, Mel and Owen, I think they are supposed to represent possibly the Dina and Jesse in the situation. I don't know. Like, is he the father of the child that Mel is having? Did he leave her for Abby? Because he seems to be like gun ho and following Abby wherever she goes. And I think in the lore, I think Owen and Abby used to be a thing from what I've gathered from what I heard about the video game. I could be wrong. But they seem they were going to go their separate ways. But again, Ellie interrupts the conversation, gun in hand. Little do they know that they're dealing with the world's clumsiest person and someone you should not be afraid of at all. And she's not even confident in herself at this point. Anyway, she tells them the map. I told you the map is important. I want you to tell me where Abby is on the map, Mel. And then Owen, I want you to tell me without her knowing where, obviously your stories have to line up. If not, I'm going to kill you both. I'm going to shoot you dead because I'm a killer. So they're about to do that. And Owen decides, again, I think he's the father. Could be wrong. But he decides to very clumsily grab, and it just goes to show you that none of these people are like, really that capable in matters of survival. He grabs the gun, he shoots like he's a new recruit for the from Star Wars. Say Star Troopers. The you guys know what I'm talking about, the terrible shooters in Star Wars. He's a new recruit. He can't hit in an open water, open ocean. He shoots at Abby, misses her. Shoots at Ellie, misses her, and she, being the John Wick of a marksman that she is, she kills two birds with one stone. Literally, she shoots Owen, he's dead, and then the bullet ricocheted off of him, and nicks her in the neck. So much so that it causes her to ultimately die. Now, before she dies, there's a realization that this is essentially in another universe, in a multiverse situation. This is Dina, right? And I will give the show, I will give, again, the marksmanship from Ellie. I know this wasn't purposeful, but again, she's the show makes sure to let us know that she is pretty. She accidentally does things like remember that movie Wanted? How they used to curve the bullets. Angelina Jolie, James McAvoy. It's a pretty good. I'm surprised they never made a sequel of that. But anyway, she accidentally curves the bullet, kills Owen, and then nips her in the neck. And lo and behold, the girl's pregnant. Shocker to me. This was shocking. I did not know this about the game. This is pretty crazy because, again, I think it parallels the situation with in another world, another situation. What if this was Jesse? What if this was Ellie and Dina? Someone had them at gunpoint, and Dina is losing her life, but also the baby's losing life. So that was interesting how that all played out. I did not anticipate that to happen. That's probably the most shocking element of this episode. Well, before we'll talk about something else that happens that I did not anticipate, but she has this level of sympathy from, I think the character's, I don't want to be calling this character Mel, and that's not her name. I think her name is Mel, but she's pregnant. She's trying to help her get the baby out. And unfortunately, she's not able to. She kept saying, I don't know what she was saying. I thought she was saying like new life or something, but it sounds like, she was obviously losing a lot of blood, which I'll have to I thought it just nicked her. Like, I didn't know. It didn't seem like the bullet went through her neck. Like, it just seemed like it grazed her neck. But I don't know. We see her. It injured her. It punctured. It might have, maybe even if it did nick her neck, maybe it hit an artery. Maybe that's what happened. She dies, man. I did not anticipate that. That is pretty messed up. Ellie is responsible for the death of not only this Owen character, who was seamlessly protecting him and his family, his community, at the hands of Ellie, and she kills his pregnant mom. Man, that's a tough pill to swallow. As an audience member, challenging. Again, I'm giving credit where credit is due. That's a challenging thing to put your audience in, to make you. I mean, hell, at this point in the story, do we want? I know this might sound blasphemy, but and maybe I'm just saying this because I'm not that invested in the story as much as I was 5 weeks ago. But do you all still want Abby to get killed by Ellie? Because, I mean, at this point, Ellie's caused more harm than Abby has, if we're being honest. Like, if you think about how many bodies are responsible to being, how many people are dead because of Ellie, Nora, Mel, Owen, technically Jesse, because if they weren't there, Jesse would still be alive. So I mean, at this point, again, I'm talking in both sides of the mindset, right? I mean, of course, I want Ellie to get a revenge on what Abby did to Joel, but again, I'm thinking of the other side of the shoe, which again, apparently season 3 is going to elaborate on this more, is Abby's point of view. But if I was Abby, and if I don't know, I'm sure that there are audience people or video game players that actually maybe sympathize with Abby at a certain point in the game. But I'm just being honest with you all. At this point in the show, I don't even know if I care if she gets revenge for Joel's death, because it's just like she's killed so many people in doing so, and the way she's done it, maybe I would feel a certain way if it was more definitive, maybe, because it's been purely accidental. The fact that Nora went down that elevator to B2, B3, where the spores were, Ellie didn't plan that out. And she beat her with the bike. She didn't even technically kill her. She's the reason she died, but she didn't end her life. It's indirectly she did, but not purposefully. Same thing with this Owen. I mean, it was self-defense, but it wasn't like she should have just boom. If she was really about it, she would just killed them. She would have shot both of them in the leg to get the information she needed. But she was hesitant. She didn't want to kill them. We know that. Which again, I might be speaking out of my neck and speaking out of terms, but I am to understand that Ellie at this point in the story in the video game is pretty much dead inside. She has, at this point in the game, her and Dina have gotten many bodies under their name, that they've killed plenty of people, whether in self-defense or part of their mission. So the level of like she's dead inside, and this level of like she's becoming what she didn't want to become. She's becoming Abby essentially, or become Joel, where she's just killing people out of vengeance. So I don't know, man. I don't know if you guys feel the same, or if you guys, again, part of me is like, yes, I want her to get her revenge, yada, yada, yada. But I don't know if the story has earned that for me in my mind, for her to continue to go on this path of vengeance, because it doesn't have a purpose. It doesn't feel purposeful. It just, like I said, this all feels like, oops, I did it again. But anyway, I talked about the maps earlier and how people are just spawning up. Literally, this was the most video game episode of the season, of the series, if you ask me. We just saw Ellie go through freaking the biggest storm of the century. We just saw her fight the god of thunder, Thor, and the god of the sea. I can't even think of Zeus. Zeus is like whoever the controls the sea. She fought them. She battled them. We're mixing video games. This is Sony, so she did her God of War. She fought the sea monsters. She survived being hung and gutted. But Tommy and Jesse, like I said, they just spawned out of nowhere. They took an Uber or a helicopter to find where Ellie was. And I'm assuming they were able to find her because earlier in the episode, Jesse, obviously she said Ferris wheel, and she pretty much let him know where she was headed. So I'm assuming he put two and two together and headed that way. But again, I'm just thinking to myself, Jesse went to go find, which by the way, we didn't get that scene. Would have been nice to see that maybe, but we didn't get it. Maybe in the Zack Snyder cut of the episode. Jesse saved Tommy. Jesse tells Tommy, we need to go get Ellie. She's at the Ferris wheel. Let's Underground Railroad situation, get past the sea, get past all the fight and the war explosions, and let's find her, which they do. And they proceed. Mind you, there's still a war going on, from what I understand, between the Seraphites and the wolves, but obviously they're not focused on them. So we're getting to the back half of this episode. We're at the back half. We end this episode with them. They saved Ellie, or not saved her, but they found Ellie. They're now back at the theater, and Ellie's obviously a different person now. She's responsible for the death of a pregnant woman, and again, might be the dad. And I was thinking, like, man, it's gonna be heavy on Ellie's heart, man. This is really gonna mess her up. But no, it doesn't seem to be bothering her right now. She's kind of moved on. I think Jesse said, Tommy says they made their bed, they got to lie in it. Isn't the whole point of y'all being here is because you felt like someone was killed for reasons that weren't justified? But now this girl has killed a pregnant mom and a baby and a guy who was maybe innocent. Yeah, I guess, F them, right? They made the decision. Yeah. So Tommy, Jesse preparing to leave. They need to go back to Jackson in the morning when the storm dies down. He's going to pack up the bags. Ellie and Jesse are talking about the situation at hand. And there's a situation going on in another room. There's commotion going on. And I don't even know. Again, this is just me after seeing it after one time. How did Abby find their location? The maps, right? Because if you're in a video game, if you're playing Abby on the map, it lets you know where you need to go. So she knew where they were at. Abby finds them. I don't know where Dina is, but she's not in the room with them. But as they run into this room, Abby shoots Jesse in the face and kills him. I mean, just shot him in the face. There's no and ifs or buts about it. He's dead. There's no, if they come back next season and he has a hole in his face and he somehow survived that, throw the show away. But I'm pretty sure he's dead. He gets shot in the face. It's a whole shock value. This is the HBO of it all, or I shouldn't even say HBO. This is the game. I'm assuming this happened. I'm pretty sure this happens in the game. He gets shot in the face. Abby's there again. She magically found them in the middle of the storm. Because it's her favorite movie theater. She goes there every Thursday. She has Tommy at gunpoint. Wait, let me say it again. She has Tommy at gunpoint. This is the same guy that in this episode was able to fend off, I don't know how many guys or girls or wolves, but Abby was able to take him down. We don't know how, but she had him. He looked, let me see if I can find the scene. He looked like he was bloodied up. Like it looked like they got into it was pretty quick, but it looks like she was able to take him down pretty easily. I'm trying to find the scene. Jesse gets shot, and they making them show that he's dead. Yeah, there's a bullet in he's dead. He's not coming back next season. It was Rush Hour 2. Rush Hour 2 bloopers. It was like when someone fell out of the casino window. It was like, he's not coming back for the sequel. Jesse is not coming back for season 3. But if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to get a better shot of this, of Abby. She finds out that it's Ellie and she knows that she's there. She gave her a second chance. I don't know if they show. I felt like they showed Tommy's face and he was bruised up. Again, what I'm kind of getting at here is just the way the show is just so confident that we're just going to buy anything they give us and just accept things as they are without logic or reason. Anyway, Abby, man, again, I got to remember Abby's the second in command. She could do no wrong. She takes down Tommy and she tells her, I should have just killed you. I gave you this chance and you squandered it. And Ellie's like, no, don't spare him. It's me you wanted. I'm the reason your dad's dead. And she points the gun at her and we hear a gunshot and it fades to black. Before we get to the last scene, if you see enough shows, you see enough movies, you see enough stories, read enough stories. She didn't shoot Ellie. I mean, we all know that. We could even if she did shoot Ellie, she's not dead. She probably shot her in the arm, shot her in the leg, or next time we see them in 2049, it's gonna have another perspective of Dina probably came in, shot her after she, everything is gonna be copacetic. Let me just say that now. But the question is, what happens to Tommy, right? There's gunshot, Tommy gets shot. I don't know. So I just want to put that out there. I don't think Ellie's dead. I don't think Ellie's been compromised. A matter of fact, like I said, I think Dina probably is the gunshot that we probably hear. And, Abby's gonna shoot and run out of the theater. And again, that leaves Tommy's fate up for arms. Again, I'm assuming, Jesse's plot armor is nowhere as thick as Ellie's. And by the way, what a good shot from Abby, man. She quick boom. Let me talk, man. Tell you, man, these people are wizards. She shoots him, kills him, and then we fade to black. So then the show says, okay, we're gonna mess these people up at home, man. We're gonna fade to black. They're gonna think, is this the last scene? They just gave us this this 23-minute episode, and we're gonna give them like a little snippet of what's to come. So we're gonna throw them off. We're gonna throw these people off, man, because we are just so good at our jobs. We go to this scene here where Abby's asleep, and I'm gonna bring this up now because it's been brought up a couple times in live chat. And this is just my interpretation. Some people, and not saying that they were definitive about this, but they question, like, wait a minute, are we led to believe that that was all a dream? That Abby dreamt what just happened, what we just witnessed? It's a reasonable question, because the way that it was edited and cut together, it's not a stretch to think that is a logical interpretation of the scene. Me personally, I don't think that's how the scene's meant to be read. I think that what we witnessed happened in real time. And what we're doing is Manny comes in the room, tells Abby that Isaac wants to see her. And mind you, last time we heard Abby in the same conversation, Abby's been missing for it sounded like she was missing for a while, but I guess that's not the case, because this is, as we see, Abby wakes up and, Manny says, so you need to go, you don't hold the man up. He's a man of, he only gets 2 seconds of screen time for us as the show. So I can only imagine how little bit of time these people in their world spend with him. But we are led to see this kind of, I don't know, grandiose question mark of the day, of the year. Like, what is going on? Look at this community that they have and they've built. Abby's overlooking what's going to be hers, essentially. She's going to be running this joint, as we were told earlier in the season, or earlier in this episode, that this is her kingdom now, or will be. As the show, after 7 weeks, for me, a pretty mediocre season of television, we end on a note that says Seattle, day one. Now, I don't know if that is supposed to be interpreted as Seattle, day one, same timeline, that this day one is the same day one that Ellie and Dina arrived to Seattle, or if this is day one of Abby and her crew and Isaac working. I don't know what this. I'm leaning towards the first option, which is this is in conjunction in same time period that Abby and Dina and Ellie arrive on the island, or arrive to Seattle. I'm assuming that's the same thing. But anyway, we supposed to, I don't know. Maybe this is like their mic drop. Like, oh, we gonna go back and we gonna tell you another shitty story. We're gonna go back and we're gonna tell you what Abby's been doing the last 3 days. Sit on that for the next 94 months. So, I was being, funny because that's the only thing that can kind of make me kind of walk me through what I consider to be, as we wrap up here for the breakdown and continue the live discussion. I consider this to be not only a bad episode of television, put aside finale just for now, just a singular episode of television. This was a bad episode of TV on many levels. The placement of where things were, how the show seemed more focused on setting up a season 3 that has not been set up to a degree that makes me excited based on what we got this season. But it's not only a bad episode of television, just from a singular television episode, a 50-minute episode, probably 46 if we're being honest, take away credits. But when you look at a finale is supposed to not only conclude a singular story that you're telling for a singular season of television, but also it is fair to set up things for what's to come, season 3 and beyond, because they did announce they're going to split this second game into a 3-arc season. So I get you set up things, but what went wrong with this finale? What went wrong with this season of television? I think the creators and the writers and the showrunners wanted to piss us off. I don't know, man. This was a very frustrating season of television. So quick thoughts on the finale before I go into my the live discussion and continue the discussion. Quick thoughts on the finale. I thought it was bad. Minus a good, the production value, minus 1 or 2 scenes from a performance standpoint. Minus that, I thought it was a really bad episode of television. I thought it was a terrible finale of a season. And will I watch season 3? Yes. Curiosity. Yes. I spent, 17 episodes into the show so far. I got, as they say, I got skin in the game, and I'm curious to know where it all lands. And I'm curious to see how I like a comeback story, because as you can tell, I think this was a pretty terribly handled season. So I like to see people win. I like to see people get their comeback and get back to the top of the game of what season 1 was. So I will be back for season 3 in 2049. I'll be back. But overall, I think more scarier than the infected, scarier than Abby, scarier than Ellie, scarier than death itself. The show's scariest thing is the writers, man. I need them to go back into the writer's room, and rethink the structuring of a story that's already been told. I can understand from Neil Druckmann's perspective, we don't want to just beat for beat, bar for bar, give you guys the same narrative that we did for the game. We got this opportunity to maybe mix it up and maybe right wrongs from the game, or might add context to the game that the game didn't. And I can respect doing things differently. But if you're going to do that, you have to structurally put together a narrative that makes sense. It doesn't compromise your characters. Also, take your time. Why are we rushing through what I understand to be such a pivotal part of Ellie's story is this section that we were just focused on, and this took place in a matter of 4 episodes in such a way that felt lazy. It felt rushed and felt extremely underwhelming. So, with all that being said, season 3, again, 2063, the year of our Lord, we will be getting season 3, and apparently it's going to be focused on Abby. And I love Caitlin Devers. I think she's an incredible actress. I am curious, not excited, curious to know this other perspective of Abby, day 1 of what she's been doing this whole time. Curious, not necessarily excited, but curious to know who is this prophet? Where did this war stem from of those Seraphites and the wolves? And I'm curious, not excited to know. Okay, Mel, Owen, Manny. The revelation that Nora has been killed or dead. Where does that all stem from? So, I'll be 60, 63, 64 years old when the next season comes out. By then, I'm pretty sure we'll be watching TVs with a little USB chip in our necks. So I will see you all then. Like, share, comment, consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, y'all. Boy, what a show. What a show. Niecy Smith with the super chat. Thanks for the coverage of the show. Well, thank you for being here with me, holding my hand through this journey, y'all. Because listen, there's a thing. I'm very aware of the negativity this show has gotten this season. In particular, I'm very aware of how much negativity Bella Ramsey has gotten this season. And it is unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, especially the levels of hatred and bigotry and racism and just not racism, but sexism and just the idiotic comments that's being thrown towards Bella, thrown towards them, unnecessary negativity. That's one side of the conversation that I don't even want to engage with. But I do think there is warranted criticism. And I think it is unfortunate that the time we live in is like sometimes the negativity gets lumped into that other side of the conversation, which I don't even, like I said, I don't even really give any knowledge to, except for that it is terrible. And I don't think any actor, actress, anyone should be warrants that type of behavior and commentary and stuff like that. But I hope you all can see that my criticisms come from a place of like literally just the show. The writing, the direction is where my criticisms lie, especially when you hold the standards of not only what we've gotten from season one, but just the source material. It's such a well-written, such great storytelling. It's a beautiful story, at least from the game I played and from what I understand about part two. It's upsetting. It's frustrating that for whatever reason, they took a detour. They took a different path to tell this story. And again, I root for a comeback. I like a comeback story. So I'm hoping that they can right their wrongs. Because man, this was rough. This was rough, man. And even from like a HBO, we've come to know that HBO doesn't play games. Of course, we know infamous. It's very famously documented the mishaps of the last few seasons of Game of Thrones, and there's also been other shows that didn't really maybe stick the landing on a particular season or episode. That comes with anything great. There's going to be lulls every now and then, but to be so fresh from the actual game, we're less than some of these stories. It takes sometimes decades to retell these stories, but we're so close to when the game was told, and it's baffling, man. I'm really curious to know if there's like a telltale story of like behind the scenes of things come out where there were like requirements from the studio heads or something, and there was a rift in the writing room between Neil and Greg, and maybe there was some two sides of the story. Some people felt the story should have went this way, others I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out. But let's see here. Jesse and Tommy swam. Hey, I'm telling you, Vic. There was so many. I mentioned the crossover of Ellie having abilities of Domino to have the magic of special luck. I'm assuming this being an HBO show that maybe Tommy and Jesse got one of the dragons from Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon. Khaleesi rented out one of their dragons, and they flew on a dragon to find Ellie so quickly. That's a possibility, But yeah, they got there pretty fast. Yeah, that's just what happens. I'm rooting for the weeds growing in Jackson pipes at this point. Yeah, man. Yeah. I should have put that in the breakdown. I guess season 3, besides the Abby of it all, I would assume that we're going to flash forward and see Dina and Ellie with the baby and see how their relationship is after the death of Jesse, and not actually hearing from Dina that she's pregnant. So there's going to be the ramifications of that and see what their relationship is, and obviously see whatever happened to Abby, right? How she was able to escape after killing Jesse. So is Dina going to now have more of a narrative and more like, and then that's another thing, like at this point, Ellie, like, do you continue to pursue? I mean, of course, now Jesse's dead and whatever happens to Tommy, but it's just like, aren't those two, enough to just stop? You lost not only Joel based on bad decision that he made in her eyes, and obviously the ramifications and the karma of that, but then you lose the so much death, right? So I'm going to be very curious to see if this Jesse's death and potentially Tommy's death on top of Joel's death is going to be fuel for Ellie to continue her vengeance. I don't know, man. I'm so curious to know what they're going to do when the show comes back in 2084. So curious. The assassinated Ellie's character. She was abandoned in the game, but she made shared mistakes. Yeah. Kevin, literally before I saw this, I was going to bring that up, but you stole the words right out of my mouth. The needed more infected taking out Carter bullets. Dude, my dog, I don't know if y'all can hear, he's snoring like a mofo. Where were they infected? Where were they? Thor. Sorry, buddy. Yeah, Kevin, 100% with you. I mean, we gotta, we saw some of the stalkers and whatnot a couple episodes ago, but yeah, man, the absence, that was an issue with season 1, right? And a lot of people complaining there wasn't as many effects as they anticipated, and the same, I guess, goes for. Yeah, man, that's a good point, Kevin. I'm right there with you, bro. I'm still rooting for the Clickers. I hope Abby murks Ellie. I mean, seriously, man, at this point, the way the deaths were adding up seem kind of worthless. Yeah, man. Really to chase me that this half-ass revenge Ellie's on. You commit to the cause or you take your plot armor home. Are you your father's daughter or aren't you? Valid points you guys are making, man. Valid points. Ellie taking people out like Deadpool. That shot from Suez. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, man. I'm just trying to think of how you, and listen, this is just a conversation we're having amongst ourselves. This is the fun thing about the internet, and the fun thing about commentary and critiquing and reviewing is, we have our points of view, and there's someone at home maybe watching this or covering this show right now that loved this episode, that loved this season, loved this story that was told throughout the season. So I'm very curious to hear other people's thoughts on how they felt about the finale, like what it was, the rating on IMDb, what the episode was rated, and Rotten Tomatoes, and just the general perception of what. I'm very intrigued to see. Tonight I'm going to probably edit this video because it was a lot longer than I anticipated. I didn't think I was going to be able to talk so much about this bad episode, but we made of what we could. But yeah, I am very curious to know, because again, and this is no shade on anyone else at home or anyone else out in the ether that enjoyed this episode. I'm sure there are people that love this episode. I'm sure there are people that love this season, and to each their own. I just know for me, and it seems like a lot of you all agree with me, that this was just a terribly written show, and terribly written, I shouldn't say show, but terribly written season. And its finale was just baffling. to say the least. Oh, I respect your honest. I respect your honest. Too many YouTubers shilling for this with fake reactions. I can't speak on other people's. Like I said, hey, to each their own, man. People really, connect to stories that they connect to, and some people might. Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of art is you can look at a piece of art and take away certain things, and someone else sees it completely differently. So, not to talk about another show, but Daredevil, this season of Daredevil, the Born Again show, I thought it was terrible. I thought it was so terribly put together with the whole previous regime and then the new regime. And then they were hyping it up and saying, they cut the last writers off like 6 episodes in and they redid everything. They threw all that away, and Daredevil wasn't going to be in a suit for half the show. It was going to be a week-to-week procedural. And it's like, everyone was like, oh, thank goodness that Kevin Feige stepped in. And like, did y'all not see the season? Everything they said the show wasn't. It was terrible. But anyway, for me, it was bad. And the same thing as I'm referring to Last of Us. Like I've seen some people that are really enjoying this show, and I'm glad for them. But to me, this was just a really inconsistent episode or season of television. Episode 2 and 5, 2 and 6, I should say, being the strongest episodes. And then episode 1, like I said, kind of was a little bit slow out of the gate. Episode 3, I understand, was a grieving episode. It was really well acted, and you felt the weight of Joel's death. And then episode 4 and 5, to me, that middle 2 episodes was just bad. Really silly stuff going on there. And then episode 6 came back with the emotions with the Joel flashback, and then this episode was just bad. So, but anyway. Don't talk about my Arya. You know what I'm saying? Arya is my homie. But you do have a point though. I mean, anyway. Ellie is invincible. Yeah, she is Mark Grayson from the great show Invincible. Ellie the luckiest dummy. You guys are funny. Trying to catch up with some of the episodes. I don't know. I'm assuming so. Yeah. For sure. Definitely need to go back to the drawing board for season 3. Keep the comments coming before we wrap it up, man. In the meantime, in between time, thumbs up, share, consider subscribing. I would appreciate that. Check out the podcast, which I do have some big things coming pretty soon. So definitely check out those platforms: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Letterboxd, Threads, Blue Sky. We're all over the place. And then things to look forward to. Got my Mission Impossible review. It's been on the channel for a couple weeks now, so check that out if you haven't already. Couple Sirens. I put out a review for Sirens. It came out this past weekend, and then this week alone, man, we got. And I'm just letting you guys know what's coming up pretty soon. We will be continuing this conversation here in a bit, but there's gonna be a couple movies that I will be seeing this week, just to kind of give you guys a heads up. Tuesday I'll be seeing the new Karate Kid, which I'm not all that excited for. The Wes Anderson movie I'll be seeing on Wednesday. Life of Chuck I'll be seeing next Sunday, and then The Ballerina next Monday. How to Train Your Dragon 2 weeks from now. Materialist 3 weeks from now. So a lot of cool stuff to look forward to. And there's a couple new shows that I'm looking forward to covering too in the month of June. Ironheart, potentially, if I get some screeners. What else? There's a new Apple show, Julianne Moore, covering her daughter, played by Sydney Sweeney, who might have murdered someone. So there's a couple things to look forward to, man, after we end this season of television. Let me see. Final comments, questions, concerns before we call in the night, y'all. And I'll let you guys get back to your Sunday evening. Yeah, like I kept pushing the dates back. Yes, I don't know when the new season will be out, but it'll be a while. Paste. The show is and was too much. Episode 2 should have really set everything off, but no. Yeah. And also, too, I question the placement of these episodes. Like, episode 2 could have been episode 6, right? We could have had things transpire in a sense of like really spending a little bit more time with Ellie and Joel, spending more time with Jesse and Dina, spending more time with Abby and her crew, and spending more time with the Seraphites. And I mean, man, they really did write themselves in a corner with only 7 episodes. It's crazy, man. Crazy. Some people love Mission Impossible 8, hate it. Yeah, I do. I mean, I like Mission Impossible 8, but to the extent I'm seeing people like say this is the best Mission Impossible, again, to each their own. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of the first hour of Mission Impossible, but the last 2 was pretty exciting. Saying it now, Druckmann did season 2. I don't. Ooh, that's a good comparison, Justin. Because I was gonna say I don't know if it's that's a pretty good comparison. Because that Joker 2 was a hot mess, and it was just that's a good comparison, man. Good comparison. Daredevil was a bit. I thought it was more than a bit mess. I did not like that season of television at all. Like, I don't even want to go into it because I didn't cover it. And the reason I didn't cover it because I did not enjoy my time with Daredevil. Being a fan of the character number one, but also being a big fan of the Netflix series, I just thought it was a mess. I mean, oh my goodness, the foggy of it all, the lack of acknowledging Foggy's death for 7 episodes, then tossing it back to the White Tiger, and the fact that Matt Murdock never took an accountability for I don't even want to give too much away, but the whole White Tiger thing was so underwhelming. The muse of it was terrible. The therapy sessions, the Heather was terrible. The chemistry between Heather and Matt was terrible. Man, that was the way I feel about Daredevil was the way I feel about this show. It's just like, oh my goodness, it was all over the place. The writing, it goes so writing is so important to any story. To any story, man. It just goes to show you when you don't have good writing, it just messes up. It takes away even good performances. It takes away cool moments. It takes away, productional value. It takes away good acting. It takes away even some, writing is so important, man. And when you don't get your writing right, it's rare occasions where, we all know this. There's things that we know is bad writing, but we enjoy the characters. We enjoy the journey. We enjoy the visuals. We enjoy the soundtrack score. There's things that can not completely substitute bad writing, but there's things that are like, oh man, that was so good that it like I can live with some of the shortcomings from the writing, right? But when you combine bad writing with taking away the fundamental values of characters, and you kind of make characters dumb, and then you undermine stuff you've built before, and when you don't pay attention to things you set up, and you forget about certain plots, and you just kind of throw things at the wall, and then it just makes the writing stand out even more when it's subpar. But yeah. Joker Faliadu was horrible. It was really bad. It was shockingly bad. I'm excited for. I'm not, man, because I don't even know. First of all, I'm not a big. I respect the first Karate Kid. I enjoy that first one. I don't even know if I saw Karate Kid 2. I don't know if I saw like the next. I think they did 4 of them. I didn't watch Cobra Kai, even though I heard it was good, but then it kind of got silly as it went on. But I don't know. We'll see in a couple days, but I'm not over there. I hope to be surprised. I heard live trucks. Yeah, me too, man. I'm a big fan of Mike Flanagan. He has an man from Oculus, Hush, Gerald's Game, Doctor Sleep. I'm a big Mike Flanagan fan, and then that's just the movies. I'm a huge fan of him as a TV writer and creator with Midnight Mass, the House on the Haunted Hill. Yeah, House on the Haunted Hill, phenomenal. The Fall of House of Usher. The only L on Mike Flanagan's resume for me is that I can't even remember. It was a story when those kids were in the they were sick. Midnight Club was the name of it. I think it was Midnight Club. I did not like that show at all. That's the only Mike Flanagan thing that I have not been a fan of. But everything else is, fire. So I'm really excited for Life of Chuck. Donnie, little secret. I am the only person on Earth. I've seen Squid Games, but like only 4 episodes. So I need to go back and catch up. But I'm like the only person on Earth. Oh, 100. You better believe it. Big fan of that IP, and horror is my genre. So yeah, I'll be there this fall for sure. Watching Murderbot. Just I had that and shout out to Apple. They always, hook up the screeners pretty early. I've had that for about a month and a half. I watched the first episode. I'm just like, this isn't my tempo. Shout out to Whiplash. It's just not my tempo. I love Alexander Skarsgård. I love a lot of the other actors attached to it, but it wasn't my cup of tea. And again, granted, I only saw the first episode, but it wasn't my, like I said, my tempo. Yeah, that's let me get me started on Muse. What a joke. I've heard it's great. I think we've talked about it plenty of times before, Joe. I guess I'm just not a big fan of like that IP in general. And like I said, from what I heard, it gets kind of silly. Like these kids are like super campy, and I'm down for campy stuff. I don't know. I'm talking out of my ass. I might check it out one day, but it just never. It was just more of the stuff I was excited for, but maybe one day. Yeah, he's got that. He's got Carrie coming in the next coming years. I will stand behind that. Studio is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite shows of this year. Yeah, no, like I said, from what I remember, I enjoyed what I said. And this is the thing too, Donnie. Like when I watched it, it was like way after the hype had passed. So I'm just saying, sometimes when you hear something so great, you sit there and sit there, so I'm like, it's hype, right? But anyway, yeah, I'll go back to it because I know it is a really, from what I hear, it's a really good show, really good storytelling. So I'll catch up. I'll probably wait till season 3 ends and then just watch it all at once. But yeah, I heard it's really great. And I think they're making an American version of it, which we'll see. Yeah. Skylar, I think went for another Game of Thrones situation where the story drops off because they ran out of source material. Are you talking about for Last of Us? Well, apparently not. Skylar, apparently this second part of the game is like huge, which I don't know, maybe warrants another 2 seasons, but you might be onto something, Skylar. You might be on something, my friend. Yeah, I think this is the final season too. Season 3. Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna watch that, Paul, sooner rather than later. I held off on Andor and just want to wait till it's all finished, so I'm gonna catch up with that as well. So, speaking of leaving you all for the night, I did not know my ticker was blocked off. We've been talking for 3 and it didn't even listen. They say time flies when you're having fun, and even though this was a good episode of television, and even though it was a disappointing finale, and even though it was a disappointing season, I'm gonna end by saying this. I haven't been live prior to this show coming back. I hadn't been live for like 6 or 7 months. And, when you don't do lives for a while, people, even though I was making videos, obviously in the in between time, but it's not always guaranteed that people are going to come back and support the channel and support whatever you're covering. But I appreciate y'all, man. Come, joining the journey. These past 7 weeks, even we had some technical difficulties. Sometimes the internet was cutting it out. It was choppy sometimes, but you guys stuck around. I appreciate that. I support. You guys supported the super chats every week. Great questions, great commentary. You kept it. A lot of people. I don't even think there was a time where people were, because again, the negativity of the show sometimes to me crosses a line with critique versus being hateful. I can just speak from what I remember seeing throughout these 7 weeks. Everyone had valid points, and I appreciate that level of decency of being a human being and having, the awareness of being just a regular person that has that thinks with logic and can articulate themselves enough that doesn't come off as hateful. So I appreciate y'all, man. Like I said, we got a lot of stuff to cover in the next few weeks. Movies and then also some shows. So hope you guys stick around for the journey for this summer. Looking forward to a lot of stuff coming out this summer, and then in preparation for the fall. And if I do my job properly, as far as what's to come, then hopefully by the end of this year we can cross that milestone, 100,000 subscribers, and at that point I'm just going to retire. No, I'm joking. No, but with you guys' help, I hope to hit that milestone by the end of this year. That would be really awesome. And we're getting there, and I couldn't do it without you guys. So I say all that to say I appreciate y'all. Before we call it a night, be safe. Have a good Sunday. Have a good Memorial Day. Have a good week. And final little comments here. Yep. Have a good Memorial Day. Apple TV, Andor, Murderbot. Fantastic. These lives have made watching a subpar. I appreciate it. I'm glad you feel that way. And again, you get this reciprocated, having you all every week to look forward to talking to is always something I was excited for. So as always, well, thank you, Justin. Hope you had a good night. You as well, Skylar. You guys are great, man. Like I said, like, share, comment. And if you happen to come across this randomly and you're new, consider subscribing. All right, y'all. I will catch you later this week. Peace out.